I always say in my classes, you're never safer than when you're channeling.
It's like going to a party. If you go to a party and there's 200 people there, you're going to be attracted to somebody that's kind of vibes with you and lives in the same kind of emotional state that you do. And I mean, if you're the person that has been abused all your life, you might make a beeline, unconsciously for the one person in the room that's abusive, But if you're a high vibe, high flying person with love and joy in your heart, you're going to be attracted to the person in the room that's on a similar level of consciousness or a higher level of consciousness than you. And there's really nothing to be concerned about. I agree. I think fear is like the enemy, really. Hi, everybody. This is Angie from the Judah channel, and I'm super excited to meet for the first time Daniel Scranton. Of course, we feel like we know him because my sweetheart and I, we watch him almost every night. We see your new video float across our feed, and we click and we get the scoop for the day, and we love it so much. So I just reached out to Daniel because I wanted to have an excuse to get to know him and to talk shop with a fellow channeler who's more veteran than me, and hopefully pick his brain for some good insights, and we'll swap stories about our wild adventures. So Daniel, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, it's one of my favorite things to do, talk about channeling. So this is great. And I also resonate with you and your work. And that's why I think I reached out to you first. And then you reached out to me later and we decided to set this up. Yeah, I mean, I've been channeling since the autumn 2010 timeframe. I didn't write down the exact date of when it started, but we were just talking about how I was at an Abraham workshop in Asheville in October of 2010, and that's when Abraham sort of gave me the green light to go ahead and do it. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm gonna do it now if they say it's okay to do, and then I just kind of sat with it, started channeled the group that refused to give me a name at first. They said, you have to give us the name. And I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to make that kind of, commitment, I guess. So I eventually started calling them the creators. And then ever since then, just a whole cadre of beings and collectives have approached me, or I've approached them to channel. And it's so much fun to open yourself up. Oh, before that happened, the first thing that happened, which was really cool, was 6 months into me channeling in English for the creators, which I still hadn't given them that name. I'm channeling light language while receiving a massage.
Oh, very cool.
And my massage therapist luckily was a Wiccan, so she was totally into it. And she was, not freaked out at all. I mean, if she wasn't freaked out by the fact that my arm used to swing up and hit me in the back while I was on the massage table, then she wasn't going to be freaked out by light language. But I didn't know what light language was. I didn't know to call it that. So I had never heard anybody do it before. So it was a complete surprise to me and to her.
Oh, so you had no context at all about
No, I had heard of speaking in tongues, but for whatever reason, I didn't even make the connection to it and speaking in tongues. I just knew that I channeled this weird language when I received massages.
That's so cool. So what do you think it was? Was you stirring up energy, or what do you think?
I started to, well, one of the things that's really interesting about channeling and about energy healing and anything in life is that to be really focused, meditation, like the reason I think I was able to slip into becoming a healer so easily is because I had to meditate to feel like a normal person I get that. Like the late 90s, I could not function without meditation. And I didn't even know I was meditating. I just knew if I go and I lie down and I close my eyes, and I know I can't take naps for whatever reason I couldn't take naps, probably so I would meditate. I just have to lay down for 20 minutes and I'll feel better. But then I started to say, well, wait a second, rather than setting an alarm, I should just count my breath. So I was totally atheist, unawake, and I'm meditating before before I was awake spiritually. Yeah. So it was so funny that I developed this meditation practice and I stuck with it every day because I had to. And then, so focus is what allows you to really open up and receive. You've got to be present, focused. You've got to be able to focus your consciousness like a head of a pin, like a laser beam. And then by doing that while receiving a massage, and the reason I did that was because I was developing romantic feelings for my massage therapist, and I wanted so much to just be present. Like, I so wanted to be present for every moment of it and just appreciate every touch, And so then, like, the light language just starts coming in, and I don't know what to do with it. Like,
Now,
I don't
did
know
she know what was
No,
happening?
she didn't either. She's like,
She
I think it
didn't.
might be Atlantean. That was her guess or something.
Cool.
But neither one of us, it wasn't till I went to have a private session with Wendy Kennedy, who I later became friends with and hung out with and stuff. But back in that day, like late 2011, she didn't know who I was. We'd never met. And her Pleiadian said, you're speaking light language and you should keep going with it. And maybe get your massage therapist friend involved in it and everything. So at first it became like the preamble to the channeling that I did. So I would speak light language, speak light language, speak light language, and then start channeling for the creators. So now when I teach channeling, that's one of the things I notice. First of all, I notice that people do tend to channel in light language and then in English. Whereas I went the opposite way. And then the other thing that happened early on in my channeling life was the creators who were coming through me at first were saying, sing and ring and sing, sing and ring and sing, sing and ring and sing. And I'm like, I don't know what it means, but I eventually got go take voice lessons. Now, when I was a kid, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was a voice teacher for decades. Oh yeah. My profession was I was a school teacher and also a professional musician for decades. Yeah, I've made like 4 or 5 records. I have so many threads. So yeah, I love this, the ring and sing. And my master's was in linguistics. So yeah, that whole thing about languages and singing and toning and using your voice. Yeah, I relate to all of that.
Yeah, and I'll get back to the continuation of that. But first, I want to do a little sidebar here about that. I moved to LA to become a screenwriter. And then because of that, I met people who got me into technical writing, got me into writing for magazines, or one magazine really. And then I became an editor for this group that did mystery shopping, which is like employee evaluation. So I was really into words and how to structure sentences and where commas go and punctuation, all that stuff, not knowing. And also writing screenplays is like a form of channeling because you're getting ideas. The ideas come in out of the blue. And I can remember for the first screenplay I wrote that I thought was really good, I remember the moment the idea dropped in to do that screenplay. So I do think, and Neil Donald Walsh talks about this too when it comes to conversations with God, like he looks back at his life before all of that happened and he says, oh, I can see now how things were preparing me for this. Because now when I channel, I know my channeling has to be words that are complete sentences that will form into paragraphs. It has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. You know, you don't just channel randomly in run-on sentences. And so I think all of that training comes into the part where we're translating it into something. That's what I think something that people who are watching this may not realize too. The beings we channel are not native English speakers.
Right.
They don't have language. You know, they're beyond all of that. So they send us an energy transmission that has to go through our filter, that has to be translated into a sound, a light language, a tone, an overtone, a word, a series of words, a concept, an idea, a teaching. So the channeler is very much involved in the channeling. And that's why when you go on YouTube and you look up all these different channelers, you're going to get a wide array of different messages because it's not 100% pure, unfiltered stuff that you're getting. So we all have to participate in it and do our best to make it as pure as possible and clean out our filter, you know, otherwise it's gonna look like a bunch of, conspiracy theory.
Yeah, and you might relate to a phenomenon that I have sometimes where I can feel them kind of sifting through the vocabulary or words in my mind to locate the best word. So I feel like even, expanding my bank of vocabulary, insight. I read a lot of enlightened masters, and I can feel them drawing or pulling out pieces of information and metaphors and explanations from the bank of what I have in there.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to go back to your light language experience on the
voice thing.
Yeah, I want to tell you something funny what happened with me with light language. So I had been in the charismatic Christian fundamentalist church for decades as an adult. When I was about 45 when I hit my awakening. Yeah. And I think I look back on it and I think my attraction to it was the music and the dancing and the raucous, noise making and the creativity of it, and the freer expression from what I had been raised in, which was more fundamentalist Baptist. Don't dance. Definitely don't move your hips from side to side. That was what I was raised in. So I was trying to break free, So anyway, I was familiar with speaking in tongues, and I actually had the gift of speaking in tongues, it was called, which actually in the scripture, it actually says speaking in angel tongues is actually what it says in the scripture.
Oh.
So the actual literal reference is more that it's a gift of speaking in angel languages. And who knows exactly what angels are, right? My understanding is that ETs, Pleiadians, Arcturians, a lot of these really high level beings that we talk to, we would perceive them to be angels because they are very pure in their form. But anyway, so I was a tongue talker in my adult life. And I would have that experience of sharing something and then getting a sense in my inner being of what it meant. And I could share then in English what it meant to me, what I thought it was, the interpretation. So my first experience with light language versus speaking in tongues was my oldest daughter. She was the renegade in our family. She was not a Christian. She was having nothing of it. She was experimenting with Wiccan, practices and tarot and different things like that. And her dad and I at the time said, well, she might be a witch, but she's our witch and we love her. So that was kind of our perspective as Christian parents. We were a little freaked out, but not too badly freaked out. And so she invited me to go to this yoga class with her one day. And I went because I wanted to spend time with her. She was a young adult, and it's hard to find things that we had in common at that time. So we get there, and the teacher smells like weed, and she's nice and high, and she's got her Buddha statue, and all her tattoos and things happening. So my little Christian mom was just trying to be open-minded and not get freaked out. And so I did the yoga class. And at the end, as we're laying on the floor in our Shavasana pose, I felt this fire start burning in my heart chakra area. Well, I didn't even know what a heart chakra was at that point. But I felt this fire come, and I started weeping, and tears were rolling down my face. And the yoga instructor starts singing in tongues. It was light language, but in my mentality and my construct, she was singing in tongues. So my mind was blown, right? How does a Buddhist high yoga teacher speak in tongues? And how is it she's having this effect on me that my heart is blown wide open and I'm getting free in my emotional state? So that was my first introduction to light language, and it was a really cool part of my awakening, that experience.
When you were talking about the difference between an angel and an ET, an Arcturian, it reminded me of conversations I had a long time ago with one of my friends about how in the Bible there's these references to beings and they're calling them angels, but they could have just as easily been ETs that these people were reporting having seen. When I had my big ET experience in the middle of the night, this happened about 8 months before I started to channel. I didn't mention this before in some of my interviews, but it was definitely ETs who were giving me this energy through the crown of my head and moving through my body. And I knew that for several reasons. And I explained the whole thing one day at the kitchen table to my father, who, is Christian and a little bit new agey, but not even close, and he would say, well, how do you know it wasn't angels? So it was he had to reinterpret it through his lens. Well, this is what makes sense to me, is that it was angels, not aliens. But that's sort of what people do, right? We see the world through our perspective, through our eyes, and what we're
Yeah.
capable of understanding or believing in.
Yeah, and in my work with Judah, I've just learned I don't think it really matters that much, right? You're
The
either a
definition.
lower
Yeah.
frequency or a higher frequency. And
Yeah.
I think any higher frequency being kind of comes off or feels angelic in their quality. Yeah, like even Jesus said, you are sons of God and you are the angels. And when you really like break that down and look at the original language, it says you are sons of God and you are angels. So he's actually calling us people, human people,
Right.
angels. And Judah's talked to
Yeah.
us about how we're actually evolving into this higher vibrational state that would be like what we perceive to be angels.
And that's the other thing that struck me when you were talking about all of that is how it's becoming clearer that science and spirituality are
Mhm.
merging. But when you bring in some of these different interpretations of what's in the Bible, it's clear that all three are really merging. And hopefully all other faiths out there too can join in this integration where we can all see like, hey, we're all talking about the same thing, really. In a Seth book, I think Seth says, the atheist still believes, they still have a type of religion, they still believe in science, that's
Mhm.
like their religion. So
Mhm.
it's interesting to see the points at which we can converge and realize that we're really not that different.
Yeah, and maybe being an atheist, I think sometimes maybe makes it easier for people to not have to undo so much of their thinking. One of the things I loved when I listened to your stuff and your story is just your bravery and being your individual, unique self. And I love that you didn't have to kind of muck through all that conditioning and stuff that I had. I think it's such a gift. Look forward to the next generation, hopefully having parents that really allow kids to kind of feel through things and figure things out their own way. Like
Yeah,
Osho, I don't know if you know who Osho is, but
I do.
my husband actually lived with him many years and
Oh,
was
really?
yeah, he's one of the original followers of Osho, along with Eckhart Tolle and Prajit and some of those guys, and lived there as a young single man. So Osho, one of the cool things about his childhood was that he was raised by his grandparents, and they had a religious community that they were a part of, but they would not allow Osho to go or participate in any way, even when he asked, even when he was persistent and wanted to be a part. Somehow they intuitively knew it was really important not to indoctrinate him or condition him in any way, but to really let him be very free. Also, he was not allowed to go to school or have teachers, outside teachers. He was really a free spirit. He ran around in nature and did whatever pleased him. And his grandmother insisted on silence in the house. So the servants and different people that worked in the house were not allowed to have interchange with Osho any more than was absolutely required to care for him. So he had a lot of silence. He had total freedom. It's said that he read like 100,000 books in his lifetime. They actually still have them in his
Wow.
personal library. So he was very much self-taught, but yet not conditioned by anyone. And that's really a gift to give kids, I think. Go ahead.
Being a atheist for a while, which I was, it did open me up to everything because I cleaned the slate, and
Mhm.
all I believed in was like Freud and Darwin.
Mhm.
And so then to see like Deepak Chopra kind of break things down to the quantum field essence of everything, it really struck a chord with my pragmatic, practical mind thinking to go, oh, okay, so I get it now. Like I understand that there's more to this than I originally thought.
So going back to that massage table, I love too, you were talking about how your arm was,
Uh-huh.
those weird kind of
Laughing.
physical things that happen to people. I love that you were able to embrace that and be okay with it. Like what was going through your mind when you started having that stuff happen?
Geez, that was weird because, well, I didn't go to this massage. There was a typical massage place. She was coming to my home or anything like that. And so I never announced to her, like, hey, I'm a channeler. She actually Googled me and found out that that's what I was doing too. So she understood what was happening in the sessions and was like, it's okay. I'm a Wiccan. I see things. I know things. And like, you don't have to worry about it. But it was still weird for her, I'm sure, to have my arm literally like in a split second, no warning whatsoever, would come up and slap me on the back with the back of my hand. And then when I was face up, my arms would be moving around like this. Because in the early days of my channeling, I would do these events in people's homes that would be around 2 hours. And I'd sit on someone's couch and I'd be dancing the whole time. You know, now it's very like, it's this and it's this, but there's no like kind of rhythmic movement like there was back then. And it just, my channeling puts people off in the first couple minutes right away when they tune into my YouTube and they go, I thought this was a channeling from the Arcturians about, you know, the September energies or something, and he's doing all these noises and movements. And I used to have a video on my YouTube channel that would be like right on the homepage of the YouTube channel explaining why that was. Why is it that I make all these sounds and do all these movements? And I'll go back to the story I was telling about the sing and ring, which is where I go to Kimberly Rielli, who's now my co-leading a course with me right now that we're doing on Zoom for people called Using the Power of Your Voice to Heal, Manifest, and Ascend to the Fifth Dimension. So she and I met in like 2011 in her studio in Santa Monica, and it was called Singing for Your Soul.
Oh, I love
that.
And
I explained to her why I was there. I was like, so these beings I channel said I should sing and ring, and she knew all about channeling, and her boyfriend was a channeler, and so like it was a perfect fit. And then, but it took us like a year before the spirit moved her to say, hey, let's do a toning warm-up instead of the usual warm-up that we do for your voice. So then we would tone on the floor, sitting across from each other, and the sound would reverberate off and create these wobbles and these cool sounds. And by the end, we felt like we just blown the roof off the studio because we'd both be doing it so loud. And then like synchronistically, I'm also at that time listening to Wendy Kennedy's Pleiadians talking about the power of tone and sound. She did a workshop somewhere. It was like 4-hour recording of her Pleiadians talking about how sound was used to build the pyramids and how every organ makes a sound and like all this really cool stuff. And so I said to Kimberly, I want to learn how to overtone. And she's like, I don't know how to do it. So then like the very next time I channeled the creators, they came through with overtones. So ever since then, every time I channel, instead of saying sing or ring at the beginning or a light language coming through, it's the tones that come through. And with the Pleiadians and the Arcturians, they make these e kind of sounds in addition to the tones, which I have no idea why that is, or definitely wasn't a choice of mine to go, you know what, I bet you I should say e and then the Arcturians will come through. So it's, you know, that's funny that, you know, it looks like that's what's happening when I'm doing it. It's like, okay, there he goes, he's going to get them now. But in actuality, it's them the whole time that are doing all of it. They're moving my fingers, they're moving they created this mudra. My friend, a yoga instructor, said to me, you know, it's interesting that mudra you make when you channel. I had no idea what a mudra was. Right. And I had no idea I was doing it either, but I do this thing where the thumb and the forefinger touch, but they're just pressing against each other too. Like there's pressure here, and then the fingers are touching. So there's friction. So there's probably a reason for both of those things that have to do with energy. But I do think that what we channel ultimately is energy, and that's what shows up in the body.
Right. And I think Judah and I were having a channeling conversation about this recently about mudras, and they said something along the lines, I won't get it exactly right, that the mudras that we learn in yoga are taught and we do them intentionally, but those are a spin-off of the origin is that our body is taken over by spirit or our merging consciousness with these different beings, and then they move through our bodies exactly like it happens with you. Now, I don't generally have different motions like that going on when I channel, but I have, like recently I woke up in the middle of the night and my arms were being moved, not by me. They were involuntarily moving, and I was creating something with my hands, and my hands were just flying. They got to going so fast, and then I threw something. So it was like I was, I guess, astral traveling, and they were just taking over my hands and creating something. So now this is another phenomenon that I saw a lot not a lot, but occasionally in the charismatic Christian church. I had seen people involuntarily, things start taking over their body and them responding. And there's even there's historical documentation of this kind of thing. Like in the Welsh revival, people would have these kind of mudras or body motions, and sometimes they would start laughing hysterically and couldn't stop. Sometimes they would pass out. It wasn't the Welsh revival, but it was one in the United States in the 1800s where women, would whip their hair would make whipping noises when they would spin their head around. It would sound like a whip cracking. I mean, there's all kinds, this stuff, like if you really get in touch with some of the stories out there, it's not that odd and not that unique. And I always encourage people, like, let consciousness do whatever it wants to do. Because your mind will lie to you, but your body will never lie to you. Your body knows the truth. And so give it freedom to just move however you feel led to move, and trust that it's a good thing that you're moving some energies that need to be moved in some way.
Yeah, it's funny because I talk to so many people because I do courses and classes and one-on-ones to teach channeling. And it's always astonishing to me that people don't recognize right away that this thing that's happening is a good thing. Like, it's good that this is happening, and I want people to know that, like, it's safe to channel. Like I always say in my classes, you're never safer than when you're channeling.
I love that.
You're never safer, because if you think about it, these beings that you're afraid are going to jump, they're not just hiding like this, like waiting for you to channel. They're waiting for you to get drunk or get high. There's those beings that'll do that because they
or violate your integrity or in some way.
Yeah, they want to feel that feeling that you have in your body, and they stick around in the lower astral. But if you're channeling the right way, you're sitting to raise your vibration. So you couldn't possibly be further from them, because they're down here, than when you've raised your vibration to channel, and they're down here. They can't jump up and get you.
Right.
It's
exactly.
when you go down. It's when you go down that you meet them there and have those experiences. Or it's a pre-birth contract or something you have no control over anyway, but it's not like they're just waiting for you to be like dumb enough to make yourself vulnerable and channel. That's just not,
exactly.
that makes no sense whatsoever.
Right. And it's something we have our sentience and our sovereignty and control over. I always tell people it's like going to a party. If you go to a party and there's 200 people there, you're going to be attracted to somebody that's kind of vibes with you and lives in the same kind of emotional state that you do. And I mean, if you're the person that has been abused all your life, you might make a beeline, unconsciously for the one person in the room that's abusive, but if you're a high vibe, high flying person with love and joy in your heart, you're going to be attracted to the person in the room that's on a similar level of consciousness or a higher level of consciousness than you. And there's really nothing to be concerned about. I agree. I think fear is like the enemy, really. Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and you could also make the argument that we're channeling all the time anyway, because our brains are like these radios that are receiving whatever is on the same wavelength as us. And so we're either channeling what we learned in school, or our parents, or what society is dictating that we think, or, it's some kind of thought or thought form that you're tuning into. And all you're doing when you're channeling is saying, I want to just change the station. I just want to go higher frequency. The M means frequency modulation in an FM radio.
Exactly. We're almost always entangled with one energy or another. So it's just a matter of shifting our attention to a being that really, and Judah, from my experience, Judah was the first entity that I channeled. And then they kind of acted like the host to bring other people to the party and welcome other beings in. And they kind of vetted different beings that were coming through. But their energy was so far beyond anything I had experienced that I was instantly healed. I had been sick for 2 years with a chronic illness after having been a really healthy person, almost all of my life. I didn't even realize it till after I gave that first channeling. And you'll laugh at this because Chuck and I since you and Wendy are friends, we were watching Wendy Kennedy one night. And as I said, I'd been sick for 2 years, not really doing much of anything, but just meditating a lot and reading a lot, watching a lot of stuff like you guys and my new channeling friends. But it wasn't on my bucket list, right, that I wanted to channel or anything. But we were watching Wendy one night and Chuck looked at me. He said, "You could do that." And I said, "Okay." I just didn't have any more no's left. I was really in a good place to surrender. And that night was the first night that I channeled. But I didn't realize it until after that first channel that I was instantly healed. Instantly healed.
Yeah.
Yeah, their energy was so amazing.
Yeah, it's one of the real benefits to doing this work professionally is that not only do you run high frequency energy through your body while you're doing it, then you're also receiving all this wisdom, all these reminders, and you're like, as you're channeling it through, you're like, oh yeah, I need to hear that. Oh yeah, I could be doing that more often while you're doing it for other people. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of the people that we help, I know you do this all the time too, helping people start channeling for the first time. Sometimes they don't get these huge, profound messages right away. And I say, but you know what? You do feel the love that they have for you. And that is the most important thing, is to feel the energy and the love, because they're not necessarily here to turn your entire world upside down. They're here to develop a friendship with us and to love us. And that's more important than, the goodies are great too, but.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And people would love to, as soon as they start channeling, be channeling something as brilliant as A Course in Miracles or something. Right. But it probably will be training wheels for a while, or even a tricycle or a big wheel for a while, and then training wheels, and then you'll get on a regular bike, and then you'll start moving on and up with it. But yeah, you're right. It is. I think that the whole channeling community, the whole channeling world needs to realize that this is about so much more than words.
Oh, yeah.
Because everybody, like, if you look at what gets the most views on YouTube, it's tell me what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Tell me what is happening behind the scenes that I don't know about, or tell me what's going to happen. Or it's like people think that channeling is about them just telling us information, as opposed to, and all the great channeled entities are all about giving us the keys to the kingdom. They just want us to say, they just want to give us the teachings that we can apply to our lives and do it for ourselves. Bashar, Abraham, Seth, like none of them are going, so you know what's going to happen in October.
Right.
Financial collapse, and then the rearrangement of the, they're not doing that at all. They're like, here's how you do it. If it's Abraham, they're talking about thinking a better feeling thought. If it's Bashar, he's like, take action on your excitement. Seth was teaching us how to create our reality, and it's teachings. Eckhart Tolle is teaching us how to be present, so it is nice to see that the cream rises to the top. But I think that like in the channeling community, there's this belief that like they have knowledge. And Abraham said that to me the last time I spoke to them. This is what they said to me about channeling. They said, you think that your job as a channeler is to go and get them the information they can't get for themselves and give it to them. And they said, what your real job is to show them that they have the answer inside themselves all along.
Exactly. Like, the Buddha's last words were, be a light unto your own soul. So as he's dying and all his followers are huddling around, and they're mourning that they're going to lose their guy that's got the in, and he's saying, it's not me, guys, be a light unto your own soul. I love that. My kind of mission statement around here is that I want to create a personal experience for people of divine love and freedom, so that they can be freer and reach their enlightened state. So I don't want to point them to me or to Judah. I want to point them back to who they are, and and help them expand in that. Yeah,
it's so much better to teach a person to fish also for you, because I want to see what they're going to channel. I'd rather teach someone how to channel so they're not relying upon me and the beings I channel for every life decision they're going to make and what's going to happen and when, but instead teach them how to channel and then watch them go out and put out their channeled material, which is usually amazing. And sometimes in my lessons with people, and they tell me what they're getting and stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, you're better than I am already.
Know, right?
I'm so good at this. Mm-hmm. And people just need confidence. Like a lot of reason why some people have hundreds of thousands or millions of followers is just because they have confidence. It's because they what they're saying emphatically and without doubt, and and they're willing to put themselves out there.
Yeah, and just, this is who I am and this is what I have to give you. My favorite little quips from you with one of your conversations with Brian Scott, I said, this is why I love Daniel so much. We were talking about being with some group somewhere and you were kind of doing your mudra thing or whatever was happening. And someone told you, you need to kind of turn that down, right? And you're like, no way. I was like, more, please. And just really resonated with me. I was like, yes, like one of the big gifts of channeling to my life is to really let my ego finally just be wrecked and destroyed, because like when you do this weird stuff, you really have no reputation anymore, or whatever, or I don't know what the right word is, but you just watch the rest of your caring what people think of you get obliterated pretty quick. When I heard you say that, it made me feel like you remind me of Prince in this regard. The thing I love about Prince is he was just wholly himself. Just wholly himself. He was just his radical, wild person.
And everybody loved him.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody loved and respected him so much. As a musician, he had so much respect from other musicians. Yeah.
Well, the reason we love him is because he's so true to himself and he never makes apologies for what he is, Well,
the funny thing about all the weird movements and stuff is like, that's the only thing that was convincing me that it was real, because I knew I wasn't doing it. So I knew that so there's this moment when you're speaking it as a conscious channeler where you're like, I don't know if this is real. I'm doubting this as it's coming out of me. All that. And Paul Selig is such a great example of that, because he's having these conversations with Melchizedek in his head while he's channeling, and Melchizedek is responding to what Paul is saying in the next line that he's saying. He's like, Paul is interrupting again, and this is what he's saying, and this is our response to that, and so as great a channeler as he is, and I don't even think he realizes how great he is, he still questions it, because it's just our nature typically to be like, and I know that I am like brutally hard on myself, which is a weird thing too, just to have that dichotomy of being like, I think of like Jim Morrison. Like Jim Morrison was like, he wanted to be this like famous rock star guy. He was so shy in the beginning. He was singing with his back to the audience. You know what I mean? Like he also had that self-consciousness and that anxiety. And I feel that way, about like, I want to put this out there and do it in my own way. And at the same time, I think I should be better. I always think that, like, I should be better. I should be getting more. I should, it should be reading like A Course in Miracles or something, you know what I mean? Like, I compare myself now to Paul Selig, because his books it's so brilliant what he does in these he channels books, like, and he moved to Maui while I was still there, and we never crossed paths. And then I left, and I wish I got to meet him.
Oh gosh, that's so cool. Wow. Yeah. Well, there's so much beauty in this life. Currently, when I get past a couple of hours of channeling, my nervous system starts feeling kind of fried, and I have to kind of take a break. But I know there are people that channel all day long every day. And I'm open to consider, that I don't want to have a limiting belief around that. And I just wonder if you have any thoughts or feedback on that. And I have another friend in this space. He can only go about 10 minutes every few days. But,
oh my gosh.
But he has like full-on open vision movie reels playing out in his field of vision. So he's kind of in a different... no, only when he drops into this deep channeling state. So that's very different from what I do. And so if he does more than about 10 minutes every few days, he's kind of laid out for a while physically.
Well, what does Judah say to you about it?
Well, Judah's just encouraged me to get grounded afterwards and to stop when I feel that need to. So the way it affects me is I'll tend to kind of like lose my spatial intelligence. I'll kind of trip or fall, or, I get kind of ungrounded if I stay really high for too long. And I tend to have like a startle reflex too. So if I've been in a really high channeling state for a while, and I can't come out of it too fast, if I do things people making loud noises or doing something to get my attention or something would really startle me.
Yeah, I've heard Wendy Kennedy say that if someone's in the audience opening like a candy wrapper, that crack,
She hears
it's
it.
like that'll take me out of the channeling state. But Daryl Anka says like we can only do it for a couple hours a day now too, where he starts walking into walls, he starts forgetting like who he is and like that.
Yeah, me too.
And I also heard Wendy once say that like she will be attracted to eating certain things after she channels that she never normally eats. Now, I can only speak from my own experience, which is like I love being barefoot anyway and going outside and walking around barefoot. Like I love that. Even if it hurts my feet, I'll still want to do that. So I know I saw an episode on Next Level Soul of a guy who gave like the scientific reasoning for why that's good for you. Like it's not just new age, like, oh, grounding. Yeah, it's real. There's science behind, because there's an electromagnetic field and the earth and the Schumann resonance and us. And, it all kind of comes together when we do that. So I would definitely do that if I were you, and make sure you're hydrated. But yeah, you got to listen to your body and also where you are. Like when I was first starting, I sometimes would only be able to channel for like 45 minutes and then it would like go away. It would just stop. And now I can do it for much longer. I'm at 14 years now of doing it. And I do eat all raw, organic, vegan food. I think that like I got trained in that in the 90s, where that became like the thing that I was like passionate about, which ultimately was the reason why Deepak Chopra resonated with me when I first heard him talk, because he was talking about natural healing, the body's ability to heal itself. And I thought, well, this guy really speaks to me. Let me see what else he's talking about. And that got me into all the ways that he kind of used quantum physics to prove to me that there's more to life than the 80 years that we get to spend in a body. When I started channeling, it was interesting because I was dealing with some pain in my body around my belly button, like a hernia type thing, which I've never had diagnosed, but I just kind of assumed that's what it was. So I like did the cleanse that Bashar recommended to me the first time I sat in Daryl's office and had a one-on-one channeling with Bashar, which is like 2005. And recommend this Dr. Schultz cleanse. And so I did it. And then on the cleanse, you're supposed to do raw food. Or all liquid. So I've been raw and vegan and organic and all that for 6 years. I went off of it for a while. And then because I did this cleanse, I started to like get into it again. And so it was only like 4 months after I started channeling that I went back into completely eating only raw foods and being really strict about the organic thing too, because I do care so much about what I put in my body, what I put on my body. I wear organic cotton stuff when I can, and hemp and bamboo and all that, because I really, so I do think that there's certain things that you'll be attracted to that I didn't make the link back when I first started channeling. I wasn't thinking like, oh, I need to eat like this now because I'm channeling, but it just so happened that I got back into it. And I think the physical aspect, using water, showering, submerging yourself in water, like all these things that we have at our disposal all the time that we don't even think of, but that are really powerful. Like sleep. I sleep now in the winter with a weighted blanket on me. I really love that feeling of the weighted blanket, which I heard about somewhere and thought, oh, that sounds cool. Let me try it. Now I love it.
Yeah. As soon as I started channeling, I started getting sick from eating. At the time, chicken and fish were pretty common for me, and I ate pretty healthy, but those immediately started making me feel sick, and I had to stop them. And Judah told me nuts and seeds, eggs, fruits and vegetables grown, and get them as fresh as I can, if I can, still warm from the sun, they said, and grown above ground rather than below ground. So, I eat fruits and vegetables grown above ground as opposed to potatoes and root vegetables and things like that. And that's been really worked for me. And I do take a lot of magnesium, which helps with that, kind of what you were describing that Daryl has, of just kind of bumping into things and losing my spatial awareness if I stay in that state too long. But magnesium helps a lot. And I had been taking monatomic gold, which I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but that's commonly known to really expand your psychic gifts. And I had to back off of that and eventually eliminate it because I had too many friends and visitors. It was a little too much. It's some powerful stuff.
Yeah, I've heard. I've never done it. I think I've taken it a few times, but nothing serious. Yeah.
Yeah, and a big support for me has been Focus Life Force Energy, and their team. I met them not long after I started channeling, but they can put a quantum field around your space, your home, or your cell phone. And that's been a major help for me. And that one of the things that happened to me when I started channeling is I could hear the thoughts then of all the people that live around me, their thoughts and feelings and emotions. So it was a little overwhelming for a while. And the FLFE really helped to kind of quiet all of that noise down, and that was helpful.
Is it different? Is your experience of channeling different when you're in your mountain home?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because it's so quiet there and there's nobody around that lives anywhere nearby. But then also I will tend to pick up on the indigenous and other spirits that are there because that land originally was the home of the Cherokee Indians. Yeah. So we have different kind of dynamics there than we do in the city, for sure.
Definitely. Yeah. I moved out of the city. I stopped living a city life in like 2013 and lived in rural areas ever since. And it's really, this is the first, now that we're on this property, it's the first time I've ever had any like serious acreage. And we're on 2.5 acres. We have a spring on the property, a dry creek, it's amazing being surrounded when you just look outside and all you see is green and trees. It's just, it makes such a difference. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel a lot of people are making that shift, that change. And I think we'll eventually move out of the city permanently too. It just feels so good not to have to struggle with or be entangled with so many energies at once. Yeah. I was working with a couple of girls in New York City recently, and Judah told them, this is a good example of what we're talking about. Sometimes you're channeling a certain thing and your mind of your personality in the background is saying, wait, don't say that. Did you really just say that? But Judah said, you need to move out of the city. Judah just point blank told them, get out of the city. We're not willing to sacrifice you on that field. And I was like, oh, Judah, you can't do that. You can't tell people to move. But they did.
Some people need to hear it, and they need to hear it
on that level.
They've probably been thinking it anyway for a long time, like, we should get out of here. I'm tired of the city. And then to get it like that will be just the final push, the little nudge.
Yeah, you just have to be courageous.
Nobody's going to do anything they don't really want to do anyway,
That's right. Right. And we can always throw in that disclaimer. Right. 'Tis the age of disclaimers.
No, it's always a good idea. Also, I've heard Daryl say this, like, before he goes in the channeling state, is to say, take whatever resonates with you, leave the rest behind. And if you don't get what you need here, I'm sure you'll find it somewhere else.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's all, to me, the channeling, the gift of it is that it's this vicarious kind of learning. I always share. It's like I had 3 kids, and my youngest would watch the 2 older ones, especially as they got into puberty in their teenage years, and they would do stupid things that teenagers do. And she would kind of watch them do this foolish stuff and see the whole scene play out and the consequences. And she was like, I don't think I'm going to do that. And she just was able to avoid so many mistakes because she learned this vicariously by watching them. And, I think, to me, that's the gift of this relationship with these angels and ETs, is they've kind of already done it all, and they can share this wisdom and insight with us so we don't have to suffer at our own hands making stupid mistakes. And we do make our own choices, like you said, but we have the insight to watch and listen. It can save us a lot of difficulty.
This is a total non sequitur, but it's true in all areas of life too, that experience really does bring that wisdom. Because now I spent the afternoon yesterday playing basketball with my 8-year-old nephew. And I was like, I want to tell him things, not just about how to play the game, but also like, now don't let your self-esteem be, dependent on whether you win or lose or make a shot, because that is a road that I've been down that I know you don't want to go down. Like, it should not be a cause for you to either feel good or feel bad about yourself. Just have fun with it,
Yeah, yeah. Well, tell me about some of the beings that you channel. And if you want to channel some or one or whatever,
Okay, all right.
you feel glad, that would be really cool.
What's new for me is Thymus is new, a new group that came in. So I teach these long channeling courses that I call mega courses. They're 9 classes. I spread them out a month in between each class so people can practice and get better at what they've learned, and then come into the next class with questions and with being ready to channel someone else, right? So I'm doing these classes with people and I lead them into the channeling state, and then I'll mute myself for 10 minutes. And for a while, I was just sitting there while watching whoever still had their camera on Zoom in the little boxes and maybe seeing what they're doing. But then eventually I said to myself, I should use this time and channel myself, and then I can tell them what I channeled too. Because a lot of times afterwards, I'll be like, okay, anybody want to share anything about what they experienced, asking questions, and they'll just be sitting there like not volunteering anything. So I always start out by saying, well, this is what happened for me. And so that's how Thymus came to be, because in one of those classes where I put them in the channeling state, muted myself, I'll even keep my camera on so they can see me. And then it's like the usual kind of, I'll tone for a bit, I'll speak light language for a bit, and then the group will come through. And when Thymus came through and they said, we are Thymus, I'm like, seriously? Thymus?
That sounds a little bit like thyroid.
There's a thymus gland.
Oh yeah,
too.
gland.
It's thyroid, but then the thymus is where the heart chakra, high heart chakra is the thymus. And also, if you break down the word, it's thy, which could be you, am, us. So you are us. It's kind of like implied in the word too, which I did that myself. They didn't say that through me. But anyway, they're like, we're the collective of ascended masters. And by that time, I had already channeled Buddha, Yeshua, Saint Germain, Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, Kuan Yin. So I had channeled Krishna, quite a few of the ascended masters in readings and stuff. And now they come through as this collective. And the other thing that I was kind of interested in during my voice lesson phase was throat singing. And I've tried to do it on my own with my gong back there. Like, I don't know if you can see the gong. I tried to do some throat singing on my own. It didn't really work out that well. But now I'm channeling Thymus, and the tones that come through in the beginning are these really guttural throat sounds.
Yes.
Like the overtony, thing. And then Saint Germain, like I channeled Saint Germain years ago for somebody. I made some meditations with Saint Germain, but all of a sudden Saint Germain's coming through over and over again in these private sessions where people are just like, just channel whoever wants to come through. And it's Saint Germain. I'm always like, really? Saint Germain? I don't get it. And then the person will say, oh, I've been working with the Violet Flame for 20 years. And so then I'll go, oh, I didn't realize Saint Germain was so popular,
He's the guy.
It's hard to really get a feel for like who he was or why he's an ascended master, like if you look on Wikipedia, it's like not a very impressive life, but that's Wikipedia. I mean, they don't really take channeling seriously on Wikipedia. I think Esther has like all these falsehoods about her on there that she can't even change, like literal things like how many siblings she has and stuff. Like they won't even let her change it. So Wikipedia is very like, we're about facts and science, and this person claims to channel, that kind of thing. So anyway, that's why I don't really trust Wikipedia a lot of times, is because I know from Esther's own account, like you can't, even as the person that the page is about, you can't even make the facts be the facts,
Well, I love, this is funny, like you're talking about, you're suddenly channeling Saint Germain a lot. And then I was with Alex recently, the most recent interview that I did with him, and he said, can we ask Boba G to come through? And I'm like, who is Boba G? I mean, I knew the name, but I knew nothing about Baba G. So he was kind of stretching me, but I immediately channeled Baba G, and then after that, Yogananda. And I feel like people can draw out these things, you know. And so Baba G and Yogananda have been really important to Alex, whether they haven't up till this point been really instrumental in my journey. But it was like his desire and his passion just kind of brought them out like that. And I loved that.
That's the great thing about channeling for other people, is because they are a part of the channeling. They're pulling it through us.
They are.
So that's something Bashar has always said about channeling. He's like, there should be another person there to complete the circuit. It's like electrical. And so in the beginning, I've only channeled when there was another person, either on the phone or Skype or in person, but I never did like just freestyle channeling. And then it was about 2 years into my channeling that I started doing that, making these daily messages a part of, because I wanted to practice and I wanted to have content for my website and stuff. And it's just been this thing that I've now done for like 12 years of channeling a message. And I try to do it 5 days a week now, because I do have a family on the weekends.
Yeah, we love it. We enjoy it so much. And I don't know, you might have found this, but when I'm in a group of people that have come together to hear Judah or hear the channeling, as the group is assembling, sometimes even a day or two before the event, I can feel their like desire pulling on the message, and I will kind of go into this really high state, and I might stay in it 2 or 3 days until the event's over. But it's like the more the people want, the more can come through and the more powerful it is.
Desire, yeah, it does. And then exactly what you're saying is my experience too. The more people, the more energy is being pulled through. So a group event in person with a large audience, that is a great experience for me, because like I just get to feel all that energy moving through and being pulled, and yeah, pretty amazing. Well, I don't have a ton of time left, but I could do some like a little message from Thymus, just to like show people what I'm up to these days with this new group. So I'm going to turn my musician sound on so the tones come through okay. Blessings! We are Thymus. We are the collective of Ascended Masters. We love speaking to all of you because we are reminders to you of who and what you really are. We remind you that you have help. You have helpers from above. And we set the tone for you. We give you a tone to reach for, something that you can aspire to. We elevate you through simply speaking to you through a channel or directly, as we often do. Now, our encouragement to you is to open yourselves up as the channelers that you all are, to receive the energetic transmission that is coming through, that goes far beyond what can be said by the channeler here. And so as you open yourselves up to receive, as you let go of any limitations that you have placed upon yourselves in terms of what you can do right now, what your gift are, and you receive the energetic transmission that is coming through, you will be getting your own information. You will be getting your own downloads. You will get solutions to problems that you've been facing for quite some time. And it will happen effortlessly because you know that we have lived lives there on earth. We have walked in the same paths that you are on right now. And we understand the human experience. We understand your struggles. We understand the hardships, the pain, and everything that you face while in human form. And you also recognize us as ones who have been able to walk those paths with a lighter step. We have been able to find a way to navigate through the life experience without going through too many of the pitfalls and without falling off the edge of the cliff. And by also elevating our consciousness, we have demonstrated what is possible for all of humankind. And so you look up to us in that regard, but then you also have this knowing that we can relate to some of what you are going through now. And because we are able to sit in this lofty perch of the 12th dimension, we are able to send you high frequency energies and be a touchstone for you, something to reach for, that you can feel is coming from a higher vibrational essence. But we want to remind you that the 12th dimension is not some place that is far from where you are. It is not so far out of reach that you cannot even possibly fathom going there or resonating with that energy. The 12th dimension is inside of you. The 12th dimension is all around you. It's a frequency range that you have access to and that we want to reintroduce you to, as you've all been in this dimension fully, and aspects of your soul are in this dimension right now. And so we are simply that which points you back to your own home base, your own true self. And that's what we want to be for you. We do not seek followers or worshipers. We do not need anyone to bow down to any of us and genuflect and kneel and all of those things that you do to show respect. We just want you to know that we are within you. You are within us. We are never out of reach. We are always helping, and we are here for you 100% of the time. We could not possibly be too busy to connect with any or all of you at once. Very good. That is all for now. We are Thymus. We are the collective of Ascended Masters, and we're always amongst you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Thymus.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I love that. That was so powerful. And, Judah said the same thing almost exactly just a couple of days ago in a group setting. They said that we embody all dimensions at once on a soul level. So that was such a great confirmation. That was really beautiful. Thank you.
I hear that all the time from people too. They're like, why are you channeling the same thing I'm channeling? I'm like, I don't know, but it's good confirmation for both of us.
That's what we want, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Validation.
Oh, it was beautiful. Yeah, it was so great. Daniel, it's been so fun to get to know you. Thank you for just hanging out with me today. And I know that this is our Next Level Soul family is going to really enjoy this. Now, is there anything you want to share with them that if they want to onboard with you or do something fun with you?
Well, there's my website, danielscranton.com, and I'm on YouTube as myself too, Daniel Scranton. But I have a book coming out with a bunch of Next Level Soul contributors, Mike Dooley, Daryl Anka, and Matt Kahn, Sarah Landon. They're all part of this book with me, and a couple of other channelers too. And it's coming out October 1st, and we're doing pre-sales until then. And then, of course, it will be available right on Audible. We all recorded our own audio for the Audible book. So yeah, that's coming out on October 1st. It's called The Great Awakening.
The Great Awakening.
Okay. Yeah, very excited about it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being here.
Great meeting you finally.
Hello, beautiful souls. This is Angie Hipple from the Judah channel, and I'm thrilled to share with you something truly extraordinary that has transformed my life, the lives of many people in the Judah family, and countless others around the world. Imagine coming home to a sanctuary of peace and harmony where all the stresses of your day melt away and your well-being, your physical, mental, and emotional well-being is flourishing. This is the magic of Focus Life Force Energy, FLFE. Judah often refers to the co-founders of FLFE, Jeffrey and Clayton, as the Wright brothers of consciousness. Just like the Wright brothers who imagined and then brought to life this incredible, fantastic dream that humans could fly, Jeffrey and Clayton are pioneering a new phenomenon in the realm of human consciousness so that humanity can soar. FLFE creates a high consciousness field around your home, your workplace, your cell phone if you're on the go. It's like having the energies of Machu Picchu and other sacred sites right on your own home, right in your living space. Now, what's truly remarkable about FLFE is this. The typical subscriber gains 30 points in their personal level of consciousness in the first 90 days with FLFE. Now, what does that mean? Why is that so extraordinary? To put this in perspective, Dr. Hawkins' research found that the average person only gains 5 points in a lifetime in their own personal level of consciousness. So to be able to gain 30 points in your personal level of consciousness in just 90 days, well, that's just nothing short of miraculous in my book. This is an incredible acceleration of your personal spiritual growth. Now, as someone who is deeply connected to nature, to music, to the healing arts through psychic and channeling gifts, I have experienced firsthand the profound effects of FLFE. It mitigates harmful EMFs. It turns down the volume of all the psychic noise that I hear from the many thousands of people that live around me in my home in the city. It supports better sleep, better health, clearer thinking. It also helps to clear any negative energies or historical imprints on my home, on your home, any ancestral negative karmic baggage on the property that might be associated with the land or the buildings. What I love most about FLFE is that it aligns with my personal journey with Judah, and it supports all the work that I do with you and with Judah in high consciousness fields. It's creating an environment to nurture my growth and my health, and it can do the same for you. Now, I'm sharing with you about FLFE today, not because I need your money. I don't. And FLFE does not need your money. I'm sharing it with you because I really believe that it's going to help your spiritual growth process and support you in a way that you deserve. You're here because you want to grow. That's the whole reason you're here at the Judah channel. You're here because you are learning to be an infinite, supreme creator being. You want to create a beautiful, high vibe, conscious life for yourself and all those that you care about. And that's why I'm sharing FLFE with you. FLFE has been a transformative blessing in my life. It's created an environment that supports all the beautiful work that I do with Judah and each one of you. It's been so key for me that I've bought it for all of my adult children and grandchildren. I give it to them every year as a gift. I wouldn't want them to live without it. Now, FLFE offers two amazing services. There's FLFE property for your home, and there's FLFE everywhere on the go support. You can assign it to your cell phone. You can assign it to a piece of jewelry or a special object like your watch, something that you always have with you. You can try both of these services for free. It's a fully immersive service. It's a trial of 15 days. You do not have to give your credit card, and you do not have to cancel in order to avoid being charged at the end of that 15-day trial period. There are no strings attached. And if you have questions about the service and how it's working or how to best utilize it, or if anything's going on with you during that trial and you're not sure, you need some support, there's always a real person that answers the phone at FLFE to answer your questions about your property, your level of consciousness, what you're experiencing with the service. The customer service is amazing. Thank you for listening. We are here for you with infinite love and infinite possibilities, and I hope you'll make FLFE a support for you in all of that. We love you. Check out the link below. Tell them Judah sent you. See you soon.